Hello everyone, welcome to the Sala Bros podcast. Namaskara. And today we have Vinay and Sagar, both bros, brothers, and they are very ardent RCB fans. So I thought I should have a podcast talking about the fortunes of RCB throughout this summer. And so to join and start this, let's have a very quick round of intros from either of them. Over to you, Vinay.
ಏ ಹಾಯ್ ಈ ಸಲ ಕಪ್ ನಮ್ದೆ ಯಾವ್ದ್ ಸಲಾನು ಕಪ್ ನಮ್ದೇನೆ ಕಾರ್ತಿಕ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಆರ್ ಮೇನ್ motto of ಈ ಸಲ ಕಪ್ ನಮ್ದೆ is I'm saying every year also we say that, and every year also a cup is ours, at least for all our fans.
Right.
It could be in imagination, the cup is always ours. So I'm one of those fans who's always dreaming about the cup and forever showing up in hope of the cup.
That is the true RCB fan who shows up every single time. What about you, Sagar?
ಈ ಸಲ ಕಪ್ ನಮ್ದೇ or I mean at the end of the day, like always RCB. I mean, do or die, or how much of a disappointment, whatever happens, the emotion is there, and there's always RCB in the heart. So let's go.
Right. I love this whole fandom about RCB. I've seen this in the CSK RCB games that are held in either Bangalore or Chennai. We went to the game last year. So amazing energy that is there. So with that, let's get into the WPL. RCB has been making all of the noise for the right reasons. What's changed from last year?
So let's start with the beginning of the tournament, right? For the first time, our RCB girls came and played in Chinnaswamy Stadium. So it brought a horde of us coming and wanting to watch them. And to start things off, they won the first two matches. If you remember last time, it was literally a whitewash until the end of the tournament. So
Right.
just starting to win at home, it just kick-started the whole tournament in a very nice way for us. That was the first big change between last year and this year.
And do you feel that the home support has actually made a huge difference? Hearing fans shouting RCB.
Absolutely. You saw them react and respond to that. Right? You saw how the girls really played and took the game. Either they won or they took the game very deep every time they were in Bangalore. So they really brought it, right? Starting with the first game, wherein it was so close, but we were able to choke UP and win, right? It was actually UP's game. That again is a bit of both, right? Bit of the fans, bit of the atmosphere, and then the girls showing up to do that.
Right. So, Sagar, you've been, of course, been a very ardent RCB fan following the men's. Last year, of course, there has been a lot of disappointment seeing, the way the RCB team, women's team performed. Did you start seeing a parallel with the men's team saying, hey, how are these factors so similar? Did you ever think about it last year that way?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, we have like, Smriti Mandana and Elysse Perry, and, there was definitely a link there, in terms of the stardom that always happens with RCB. RCB is always about, having these uh, very, very glamorous players in terms of whether it is shot making or whether it's the personalities that come with RCB. That is RCB, and we have so many fans who are always wanting these players to succeed. That hope and that belief that they're going to come through. That is the link that I see between men and women's cricket. And but this year, in WPL, as I keep observing, the team they have selected and the calmness that seems to be around the women's team nowadays. There is not much drama around the way they go about doing their job, and that is what I'm hoping, that the men's team also start taking that forward, where even if there is even whether it was a recent match, even if you saw, there is a certain calmness around it, and even our captain has said that no matter what happens, that the team is together and they're not thinking too far ahead and just thinking about that one ball at a time. And that is what we hope that link carries forward even with the men's team.
Right, right. And as you say, this one or two superstar culture, I was just looking at the runs contribution by some of your superstars. When I say superstars, I'm looking at Elysse Perry, I'm looking at Sophie Devine. Last year, each of them contributed about 20% in terms of the overall runs. But this year, I'm seeing that, of course, Elysse Perry is right at the top with 26% of runs. But we've seen better contribution from Smriti Mandhana from 11% to about 19%. Then you're having Sabineni Meghana. Then you're also seeing Richa Ghosh contribute about 18%. So is RCB finally breaking away from that superstar mold to also having newer stars coming from the Indian talent pool? Because I've seen that happen this year at the WPL. What do you think, Vinay?
Well, absolutely. See, any team wins, and one of your men's team that you like, CSK, for example, why do they keep winning? Is the fact that it's all about scenarios, right? The more scenarios you're prepared for, and the more scenarios you can handle as a team, the better that you do, right? So if you take RCB and take a look at the 8 games and see what scenarios they covered, you saw Richa Ghosh uh, taking it to the last ball with Delhi. So you had a scenario where somebody is an amazing finisher, right? And they've made a conscious decision this year, if you see, of sending Richa and giving her more overs, not sending her in the DK formula of the last 24 balls, but sending her for nearly 40 balls or 50 balls, giving her that space. So they got that scenario right. Second, if Smriti Mandhana in the opening games brought her A game, so she really kick-started the tournament with victory, and she was supported by Meghana, again an Indian player in the first 4 games, where Meghana at least got, I think, one or two half centuries. So there's contribution there at the top. Then there is Elysse Perry. When slowly things were looking a little, down and tired, Elysse Perry is shot her hands up in all crunch games. So you have contribution from there. Then you had contribution from Georgia Wareham, where there were a couple of games which needed finishing, whether it was a last ball six, I think in the 135 of the Mumbai, or in Gujarat game where she hit, I think, 48 of 20 odd balls, right? So you had suddenly contribution from everywhere, right? Molyneux got a couple of games to open. She brought in some runs. So if you take so what that does is not only percentage, also percentage with scenarios. So you're covered for literally some 360-degree scenario, which is why you see the change in victory.
Right.
No, and not to forget, I mean, the Vinay has covered the batting scenarios really well. But not to forget, the girls if you see the bowling also, there is a certain amount of whether it is Shriyanka Patil who's coming in, the ball is tossed to her and she's able to bring in that line and length consistently, and she's able to create that pressure. And you have other experienced players, Elysse Perry has bowled a few overs, but not every match. But even then, you see the other girls coming through and maintaining that pressure. Even for the Mumbai match, they never got away for all of the overs. There is discussion about we lost in the last 2 overs. I think the match was there the entire 20 overs. So we should also remember how the bowlers have come through and how they have kept the pressure on and got strikes whenever it's required. So that's another factor.
Interestingly, you mentioned about Shreyanka Patil. I was just seeing some stats. Apparently, at home, which is in Bangalore, being a small ground, right? Whenever she attacked the line of the stumps, her strike rate was less than 6 and over. Or not strike rate, I mean her economy rate was less than 6 and over. But whenever she erred a little bit in her line, she was whacked because it's a small ground and sometimes the ball travels in Chinnaswamy. But in Delhi, I think she's had an amazing run, and most of her success this year at the WPL has come in the Delhi leg of the games. So I'm just hoping that she is all primed to deliver you guys, or to be part of that core group that is delivering smiles to answer that eternal question of life, which is Sala Cup Namde. So Shriyanka Patil's been, of course, bowling very well. But another, interesting thing from last year, though Asha Shobana was part of your side, she only had, I think, 2-3 wickets last year that she picked. And first game she comes, she takes double the amount of wickets she'd taken in the whole season last year. What's changed with her?
Yeah, so to answer that question, right, what you should ask is what's changed with everyone, right? Yes, it's exhibiting in individuals. You see Shreyanka Patil or Asha, everybody is up their game. I think the way they have approached and preparation for this entire season could be one of the reasons. What's happened in between the spaces. If you see, we've got a new coach. The coach, he has a experience of taking Adelaide in BBL to winning the tournament. And there are 2 seasons when they didn't win, they reached the playoffs. So he has a he has a way and approach towards making a team successful. And that is one aspect, I think, which has changed in the way they've approached the game. For example, we're talking about Shriyanka Patil. I also heard an interview where they were talking about how Shriyanka Patil they rented a pitch out RCB separately for Shriyanka Patil so that she had some 4 or 5 release points of the ball, and she was not sure about 1 or 2 release points. She wanted to get it more perfected. So the coaching staff rented a separate pitch and helped her do that. I mean, that is the kind of preparation and that you want to come in with, right? In order to make that difference. So I think that's made a big difference in the level of the game. And also starting with victory, I think, is a big contributor, because once you start with victory, confidence level brings your best out of you.
Right, right. And I think that way, I think even Shriyanka Patil, she's also graduated, right? People noticed her last year at the WPL, and then she went on to play for India. She also went on to play in the Caribbean Premier League for Guyana. So that way, I think there's her exposure as well as the ability to ply trade with meeting different people has also increased her levels. So that way, we're seeing a very improved version of RCB, and probably the pressure on Smriti Mandhana, the batter, is probably lesser, that she doesn't have to completely, take all of the reins and responsibilities. So that way you're having people, it's an idea, a good side is where you have your top 5, 6 batters all contribute 18 to 20% of the runs. That adds up to about 100%. That way, I think RCB has not had too much dependence, but you can't, you'll never say no to the dependence that you people have on Elysse Perry. 25-26% of runs this season at the WPL before the final. She scores runs, she's scoring runs, she's also taking wickets. Superwoman.
No, absolutely. I mean, when it's unbelievable if somebody comes and scores, 60, 70 runs in an over and then comes back and starts bowling and also starts taking wickets. So, Superwoman is definitely, definition. I mean, definitely we can say that about Elysse Perry this season. But at the same time, we should also probably spend some time talking about uh, the players the all rounders that are there in RCB this year. Um, I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can share about whether this all round ability was there, but at least this year when I'm following the games closely, I can see that we have about 4 or 5. All the foreign players are all able to bowl 2, 3 overs and sometimes even 4 overs, and these players are also able to, whether it's Wareham, whether it's Molyneux, whether it's Sophie Devine, of course, and Elysse Perry, all of them are able to. They can each bowl 4 overs if it's really required, and also strike at a decent strike rate, and also they're bringing in good amount of runs. So Elysse Perry, definitely there is we can sit and talk about the contribution what she's giving for there's any words you say is going to be very less for what if she finishes the last match even with maybe 30, 40 runs, and whether she takes a wicket or not, she's probably going to take away the man of the series award. There is a very high possibility. But the you said the lack, the dependence. Smriti Mandhana doesn't have to score, and yet you can see on the lineup these all-rounders are coming through. So I think the balance that RCB has struck this year, just with the number of options they have, whether it's batting or bowling, is incredible.
I think that way, I think they've had a good option. Like in the sense, even when Elysse Perry went out, they had Nadine de Klerk come in, and she immediately came in and took 2 wickets. So having people like Wareham, Nadine de Klerk, and then having Sophie Molyneux has worked well, because they've also picked wickets. Sophie Molyneux is your second highest wicket taker this season with 9 wickets so far, supporting Shobana Asha and Shriyanka Patil. So yes, definitely the amount of bowling options that you have this year is more high quality all rounders who are doing both, which is being able to pick wickets as well as use the long handle to good effect at the end. Because I know how important that RCB fans discussing how important was that Georgia Wareham six, because at the end of the day, when you look at fine margins, you guys won by 5 runs, and that 6 made a difference. Are you folks thinking about it?
No, I mean, I guess in T20, I'm always not a big fan about talking about those few runs, because the entire batting of the 20 overs would have taken place according to, say, a score of 130. Also, I'm not trying to lessen the impact of what the contribution that Wareham contributed, whether it is through bat or ball. There is no doubt about it, especially with so many wickets down. But I certainly, there is always, there's talk about Asha's last over, or talk about Shreyanka's 4 overs, or the wicket that Harmanpreet's wicket was, of course, the turning point. But I still think, scoring only 130, 135, the entire bowling, commendable, the way the captain also has rotated the bowlers. There have been some parts in the tournament where I've questioned whether the bowling rotation has been accurate, but she made the right bowling changes. I think she read the pulse of the game extremely well. I heard from her interview that she wasn't sure about giving Asha the last over, but the calmness and composure with which Asha bowled that last over, it was there was no doubt in at least as a fan when I'm looking at it, there was no doubt in my mind that this match is coming to us. So I would credit, yes, Wareham for the last six, or whether for her 4 overs. I think Sophie bowled a very good 19th over, but despite all that, I think the entire bowling lineup and the way they have carried the team, whatever there is a backdoor discussions that are going on, or how they are managing their training sessions and how they're coming out on the field, there is certainly a certain amount of confidence that you can take, or you know. So I would say the entire bowling lineup itself deserves the credit, and so that would be my take on it.
Right, and I think it's supporting stat wise, right? The point you made, because last year I remember only Shobha Asha, Shreyanka had 6 wickets, Shobhana Asha had about 5 wickets, and those were your top two wicket takers. This time you have Shobhana Asha with 10, Sophie Molyneux and Shreyanka Patil with 9, Elysse Perry, Georgia Wareham, and Sophie Devine with 7, 7, and 6 wickets. So you have 6 bowling options who are all taking wickets, and that brings to the last question here. You're the only bowling option that is not taking wickets is your power play. Renuka Singh. She was your fast bowler who was, who's the person who can swing the ball in, but it's not been a happy hunting ground for her so far, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
absolutely. I
think that
think
has
that has
been
been
the
the
primary
primary
weakness, so
weakness,
to
so
say.
to say.
I think
I
as
think
per
as per
stats,
stats,
somewhere I was
somewhere I was
reading
reading
our power
power
play
play
strike rate
strike
is
rate is
some
some
26 or
26 or
28
28
balls,
balls,
which
which
means to
means to
say
say
that you're
that
going
you're
to
going
pick
to
up
pick up
only
only
one
one
wicket.
wicket.
Yes, so which automatically means what that translates to the other team is a license to kill. Because if I'm going to be after 6 overs between 50 or 60 runs for one wicket, it's like an amazing start. We saw that with Mumbai also, right? They had an amazing start in both the games in which we sort of defeated them, and then suddenly the whole game changed after sixth over. But having said that, knowing what your weakness is, and if the weakness is apparent, uh, well, what can you do about it now? You see the pitch in Delhi has not been conducive also for swing bowling. I think the only person in the past few games who got extracted movement out of that was only Elysse Perry. So even your Ismail was not able to do that in the previous two games. So Elysse Perry did something magically and it moved, but otherwise it has not been conducive. It's been more a slow wicket which aids the spinners. So knowing that, you know what you're going in with.
Right, right. It's a fair point. I think 60% of wickets so far at the Kotla for the WPL has come from spinners, and pacers haven't really been as effective here. Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more point to our all-rounder discussion. We were the other stark factor about the all-rounder thing, right? So you can see that strategy from RCB to stack up all-rounders and stack up not only high-quality all-rounders but variability in the all-rounder. What I mean to say is between Sophie Devine, Elysse Perry, Natalia De Clark, you got people who can bat, tonk the ball, and can bowl fast. But then you're like, hey, I'm not happy with this. I also want spinning all rounders. So then you went and you got Georgia Wareham and Molyneux. So you have all rounders who do both pace and spin. So you have all-rounder with variation all-rounder, right? So you're not only stacking high-quality all-rounders, you're stacking all-rounders who can give you all kind of variation for 20 overs. That's a phenomenal strategy that they have gone, and I don't know if it's happened over a period of time consciously, however, but it's a phenomenal place to be, right? To have five people who have so much variability and impact.
Absolutely, man. This is exactly what I generally observe as as a CSK fan of the men's team. They've generally stacked it with all rounders. So it's good to see RCB, make very good selections. And I think in the last 3-4 years, even from the men's team as well as the women's team, I've seen RCB, be a lot more focused, have a good auction, execute strategies well. They've been able to, come to the playoffs, because there was a time when I used to troll RCB fans, specifically because these guys. I mean, like you guys went and had Corey Anderson as a death bowler and you killed his career, and so many other RCB gaps that are there as memes on the internet. But talk about this one bowling failure. We were talking about Renuka Singh not really succeeding. You also have the case of not knowing who's your second opener to partner along with Smriti Mandana. You've tried Sophie Devine. She's not really come off. Only 7.5% of is her contribution this year in the overall run scored for RCB. Then you've tried Sophie Molyneux for a couple of games. You've also tried Sabineni Megha. As we go to the final today, WPL final, who do you think should open with Smriti Mandana?
Well, I mean, I'm glad we came to the discussion about what we're going to do today, because I'm still confused on. I wasn't sure about the toss decision that they took of batting first. I'm glad it worked out eventually. But yeah, I mean that.
Okay, but Sagar, one second. When you say the toss decision of batting first, I see actually in Delhi, there's been a pattern. 7 out of 9 games have been won by the team batting first. But I understand with due and stuff, it becomes easy for the side batting second. But from a stat perspective, it looks like it was not that bad a decision, because 7 out of 9 is a decent win percent ratio. But that's just a stat. I think what you observe as a fan, or what you observe, what was it that you were thinking when you heard the toss, and why did you feel it was not the best decision?
I mean, the decision, at least on the toss, I mean, going by on the face of it, it was just said that, like they want to bat first to put runs on the board in a knockout match. And night game, I from what I've understood, we've got slightly lucky because there was no dew in the second half. So if there was dew and you're having spinners bowl, then you know what the result is. So I'm glad that there was no dew. But unless there is any information or stats about whether Delhi gets dew or doesn't get dew, maybe you can shed light on that if you know about it. But there was expectation of dew when the second half started, and there was no dew. So I was glad in that sense. And you just won a game against Mumbai. Uh, you know, batting second, and Elysse Perry is taking 6 wickets. She was able to swing the ball. So somewhere in my mind, I was just hoping, there is a difference between your attack being able to Elysse Perry, or whether it is Sophie Devine, they're coming and bowling second when there is already a total set, versus you going and starting bowling first and trying to take wickets. So these are the things that is running in my mind. There is partially probably because of the match that just took place 2 days before, and of course because of the dew. These are the two reasons that are running in my mind. And the fact about saying that, in a knockout match, just like final, you just put the score on board. In a final, I've heard that, but trying to do that in games before kind of felt for me that they're taking a slightly conservative approach. No, I just if you don't just adding one thing though. I know what Vinay is explaining is a probably a very analytical way about going about it, and how we have seen the earlier matches play out. But there is one thing that if I observe from the last match, I think there is a certain degree of planning that goes into that the team has come out, and including the staff, the support staff or the coaches have decided that they are going to throw the ball to the experienced players. They're going to put the experienced players in the boundary because they know that experience counts in a knockout match, and then there are a lot of nerves. Because if you see how the bowling also started, you first start with Renuka, and then you start throwing the ball to Sophie Devine and Elysse Perry because there is experience. And even if you look at some post match discussions, they said that they knew that they were giving credit to the Harmanpreet's catch in the boundary, because they know that's an important point where Harmanpreet goes for sixers, and they want to make sure the right person is standing. So the reason why I'm mentioning this in this point is that I think that the staff is banking on experience, and that is probably the reason they went with Sophie Devine opening. So I'm not going to be surprised if they don't go back. They don't go back to the formula with Molyneux opening, is what Vinay is suggesting. Even though there might be some information on saying that will work, I wouldn't be surprised if the staff goes back to experience, because they are banking on the experienced players coming through and keeping that calm and composure in the team.
Right, that's an interesting point. I was thinking the same way too, because I remember Shane Watson for Chennai Super Kings. He failed in the 2018 season, for those 14 games. And he said if he had failed in any other side, nobody would have backed him. And then you had him in the finals coming and scoring 100 after, I think, struggling. He was, I think, 0 of 10 or 11 balls, and then he hits a rearguard 100 against the Sunrisers. So that way, could this be Sophie Devine and Renuka Singh's moment, because they've been persisted with? So experience is one reason to back Sophie Devine. The other thing that I was thinking is, can Sabineni Megha come into the 11? Because there is a Shraddha Pokharkar. I don't know if she's been batting or bowling, because she's been in the side. I don't know if she's got a bat or a bowl. So instead of having a very undefined role, you might as well get Sabineni Megha. RCB looked a little, and it's also your right-left combination, because the last time you had Sophie Molyneux and Smriti Mandhana open, it sometimes becomes a target for a right arm off spinner bowling to both, so that variability goes. So these are some of the thoughts that I've had, but I don't get as tense because I'm not the ardent RCB fan that you guys are. So that way, we're just going to end this podcast here. Thanks for the first episode. As we go from the Sala Bros, what is your wish in 15 seconds to what do you think should happen today?
I do not mind whichever way, whether we bat first or bowl first. We almost got Delhi the last game. It was only because that one ball where Richa Ghosh was a little tired by then, but we've almost got them, and we were ready to take them down. So we have wherewithal to do both, right? Because you have 7 good bowlers, 7 good batsmen. So bring it on. We'll do it either ways.
Wow, that's a lot of confidence going into the WPL final. What about you, Sagar? You have any particular wishes, like no man should bat first, it's a final, or you're thinking like win at both sides?
Like the actions are being done right now, like Dhoni says, the work is done beforehand. The result is just an eventuality of it. So let's just hope that they continue their preparations really well, and hope for the best.
Wow, sacrilege, man! An RCB fan is quoting a CSK quote, and so that's good to see. But yeah, let's hope that you guys finally get to live the Sala Cup.
I mean, RCB fan is quoting a Dhoni quote, so I mean, Dhoni is always Dhoni, right?
Right. So yeah, let's hope it's going to be Sala Cup Namde and not the familiar tune of Mundina Sala Cup Namde. As we get to the closing stages of the game. Thanks guys, it was nice having you folks on the Sala Bros podcast, and looking forward to more such conversations during the IPL season that begins, speaking on the Royal Challengers. Thank you guys.
All right, bye.